Hi guys, my name is Max. I'm a Ruby developer from Minsk. I'm 17 years old. For those guys who don't know where Minsk is, here is the map. Okay. Today I want to tell you about my own experience using gem cells. Who don't know gem cells, it's a part of Trailblazer. Who don't know what is Trailblazer, there will be a speech about Trailblazer tomorrow. So, to the point. A few months ago, my team and I were developing some Rails application. All you need to know about this Rails application I can express in 3 statements. For the first, the main functional was managing orders. The second, it had very complex business logic. The third, it had many roles such as admin, analyst, call operator, and so on and so forth. And the fourth, it had many order states such as new, paid, sent, returned, and etc. Here is the sample Rails application I created you to show the main functional. Here is the list of orders. If you click on the order, it expands and you can view its body. So our first solution was to create a scoped controller for each of the rows. So we created 4 controllers, analyst orders controller, admin orders controller, and etc. But we forgot about one very important thing. About that thing that order had many states. For example, our use cases. Post manager can see order's contact information if order is in state new. Or call operator should see process button if the order is in state waiting clarification only. So, and I can list this forever. One day I returned to work from my trip to Norway, and guys from my team were looking at me very strange. Their faces was like this, and they were very happy. I asked him something like, "Hey guys, do you remember that you are Ruby developers? Why are you so happy?" And they answered something like, "We refactored a little." It took me more than an hour to understand the new structure of our views, of our controllers, but when I understood it, I think that it is very easy and great. So we used gem cells. It's an open source. It's a part of Trailblazer, a new architecture for Rails. So what have we done? For the first, we removed all the scoped controllers because it was a bad solution. We created orders controller, one orders controller for all the roles. Then we created concepts folder and order cell and rendered our collection of orders in the view. So you probably have a question, what is actually a cell? I try to simplify this, so I answer that cell is just a Ruby class with one method show, which render your views called show. And cell has this great and convenient builder, which allow you to specify different conditional statements. So, for example, in our case, for post manager, for user with role post manager and the order with state sent, we need to create post manager send order cell. So we divided our order into some logical parts, such as order history, card, shipping, and etc. And we also implemented a body parts method here, which render our views. For example, the analyst can see. 1 more minute. 1 minute. 1 more minute, and I will end. The analyst can see the order's contact information if the order is in state new. 1 more minute, please. Okay. So
if you have any questions about cells, you can.
Yeah, you can find me after the speech, and I'll answer it.
Thank you very much. Really nice talk.
Okay, so let's start with a show of hands. Raise your hand if you use keyboard at least twice a week. Pretty much everybody. Raise your hand if you've seen Claire Underwood die in the newest season of House of Cards. Raise your hand if you've read this post. Okay, so like 2 hands maybe. Okay. So all this talk is based on that. Brackets, pretty important and popular in programming, but awkward to type Shift and 9 or 0. Shift key is used to insert uppercase and special characters, but it's pretty useless on its own. Nothing happens if you press just the Shift key. So we can change that. Make your Shift keys enter either the left or right bracket if pressed alone. And that's really cool if you think about it, because you lose nothing and you can still type uppercase characters just as you did before. It doesn't interfere with that. And what you gain, you can insert brackets with just 1 finger. And it's really, really cool. Just think about it. Some people might say that my text editor automatically closes the brackets, but you still have to open them. What about uppercase characters? I told you that you can still enter them because the parentheses get typed if you just press the Shift key alone, right? Doesn't it make you enter brackets by accident pretty often? No. So, are you a developer? No, but you should check out Clojure. It's a pretty cool language. Control and S keys, rather important, awkward to type. Caps lock, useless. Usually in a pretty good spot on the keyboard. This is Teletype Model 33 from 1963, and they got it right. The control key is actually where it should be. So we can make caps lock key act as escape when pressed alone and make it act as control when pressed with another key. And this is also really, really cool. What you lose, caps lock key, but nobody uses that. What you gain, a much better access to control and escape keys. So that's all. All the information you can find under this link. I'm Ravicious on Twitter. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Ivan. I'm from Russia. I'm a freelancer. And that's it for now. And I want to share some thoughts about learning. Sometimes when some guru gives a talk, he often uses the terminology which is too high for you. And I found myself pretty often in this situation. And recently I learned about why it actually happens and what to do with that. And I'd like to share some of my thoughts. And the thing is that that guru has very detailed mental model of a subject, and he knows how things are related to each other and what are they consist from. And it is natural for him to use that terminology, and the listeners often don't have such a good map, and they probably have heard of one thing, they know part of another thing. They're not sure how they are related, and the whole picture is smaller. And sometimes you might have some delusions which prevent you from obtaining full and right understanding. and actually what to do with that. If you liked some talk, there is only one thing you can do with this. You should repeat and practice. And the main thing you need to know about the learning is that it is all about building new connections in your brain. And you need to get rid of your delusions first, and you need to develop new things in your brain and to connect them with your previous experience. And this is only achievable by practice. You try to do what you have learned, and so in practice you can do it. So you watched some video, you heard some presentation, then you should go practice, and then you should watch it again. And this is how it can be much more effective. And for those who are interested in how the brain actually works, I can recommend this course on Coursera, and this is just amazing. And that's it. Thank you.
I want to talk about asynchronous programming with Commodore 64. Wait, what? Commodore 64? What do you mean? It could do that? 32 years ago? Wait, what the fuck is Commodore 64 anyway? How many of you know what Commodore 64 is? Nice, pretty much everyone. For those who don't know, it's this beauty. It's the highest selling single computer model of all time. That's true. They have a Guinness World Record. So it has 1 megahertz processor, 8-bit registers, and 64 kilobytes of memory. But it's not produced for more than 20 years. But 70 new games were released last year. Oh my God! So people love Commodore 64. Do you want to know why? Do you want to know why? Yes. Great. Let me show you some assembly code. Okay, can you see it? Okay, basically, this code makes this program. And this is how it works. So there is a loop. Let me not jump at the end, and let's see what happens. So this is one iteration. When I run it again, this is the other. So basically, on the top of the line, it cycles characters. On the bottom line, it cycles colors. And then we add some delay because it would be too fast. And then we jump back to the loop, and it works like that. So it's the simplest way to achieve animation on Commodore 64 and basically pretty much anywhere. But there is a better way. We can make computer do that for us asynchronously. And when I say asynchronously, I mean we don't have control when it's doing that. So basically, the computer will control our animation. Basically, first we need to disable interrupts. Then we need to load into one of the registers half of the address of the cycle colors routine. Then we load to the other register the other half of the address. Registers are 8 bits and the addresses are 16 bits, and this is why we need to juggle code like that. So we load the address of the method, and then we need to store excuse me? The cycle colors. No. This is the first half, and the other, this is the second half. So we need to, we need to put half of the address to one register, then store it into a place called interrupt vector, then store the other half in the interrupt vector +1, and then we bring back the interrupt. So we don't want to call this method by ourselves. Instead, it will be attached to the interrupt routine at the beginning. And after we return from the method, we don't return from subroutine. We instead will jump into the interrupt address. And if I typed everything correctly, it should still work. And oh yeah. That's a spoiler. So basically, so as you see, our program, well, let me show you once again in the proper order. So basically, it works the same, right? But now the real magic happens, the one that you already know, sorry about that. The real magic happens, our program ended, but animation runs continuously. And we can even type over the animated colors. Ooh. So I do love Commodore 64, and as I mentioned at my previous talk, I started working on a Commodore 64 screencasts, and I want to show you one thing, an intro to the screencast that will be released soon. Here's the website. Subscribe.
All right, hello everyone. So I want to talk today about the topic that is quite controversial. Why you should change your job. And yeah, this is who am I? I'm Lucian. I'm working from like 2 weeks in the new company. It's Strategizer. Yeah, and that's why I want to talk about why you should change your job. And there are a few reasons behind that. I think there is always a win when you change your job. Why? First thing is that you probably escaping your comfort zone, which is a really good thing to do. You meet new people. Possibly if you new at your job, they don't demand you that much. So yeah. So you have easier time than in your previous one. Yeah, you increase your salary because you possibly don't want to change your job to one with lower salary. You can see things from different perspectives. Like if you was tied to your job like for 2 years, then you see justice. And when you change your job, you can see things from different perspective. You can try other technology. So that's a cool thing, actually. Okay, let's say that I've convinced you. And what now? Work remotely. I think this is the best way right now, and we are programmers. We are able to do that. So let's just do that because it's great. You can be anywhere in the world. You can go to Malaysia and work from there like for 2 months. Nobody cares. You can even work in your previous company office. Thanks, pilot. You can have better income to expenses right here because yeah, you can go to Bangladesh and it's really cheap to live there and still earn euros. Yeah, and it's easier to switch a job in the future, I think, because you are not tied. So yeah. Here are a couple of links. Where can you find such job? I find my one on this one, but yeah, this remote .io is really great because it's like it concatenates all these sites. So you can check out this link because it has like a lot of information about how to work remotely, where to find like places, co-working spaces and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's it. Thanks.
You probably already know that your code is not you, right? But there is more to that. And there are much more to that. And your likes, your upvotes, or comments, or favorites, or whatever your internet karma you get, that's not you. And your gender is not you, and your political and religious views are not you, and your parents, your family, your child, that's not you. And the project that you currently work, that you put so much into, that's not you. And the money that you get, that you like, we all like that, that's not you. And the occupation is not you, and your health problems are not you, and your skin color, that's also not you. And whatever your coworkers think about you, like in the last pull request that you had, they thought a lot about you, that's not you. And your employees and whatever the company you work for, like I work for Arkansas, that's not you. And what you eat, that's not you. Nobody cares that I'm a vegetarian. And your blog posts, that's not you. It doesn't matter that I have 100 blog posts, that's not you. And your nationality, that's not you. And your Mac is not you also. So you are you. And I want you to find yourself, like if they, whoever is they, come and take all of that, all the things that we are so attached to every day, like we think that's me, that's me, that's me. If they come and take all of that from you, and remember from history that this happened, then what do you still have with you? What's left with you? And if you find yourself like lost in a forest, in a frozen winter, what are you going to fight for? Like, what is the thing that you want to be living for? Why would you fight to get back and stay alive? And if you had to start over again with nothing, what is the one thing that you would still have with you, inside you? And for me, that's curiosity. Like, I would like to know everything, like read everything, know everything. I'm curiosity-driven. I love science. That's inside me. If I had to start from over, I would have my own curiosity. And why does it matter? Because once you decouple your identity, like all those things that are not you, then it's much easier to cope with stress, because no matter what, you realize that they cannot from you what's you. They can take all those things that I mentioned, but they can't take from you, because that's something much deeper inside you that you need to find. And then you don't care about the negative comments, the blog posts, the karma. You don't care that someone criticizes your technology, your choice, the opinions. You don't care, because that's not you. Find yourself. Thank you.
Okay, so hello, my name is Sadek, and nobody cares who I work for, and it doesn't matter probably. So if some of you probably know me, and you know that I'm all into questioning stuff, so I really enjoyed the Michał's talk, and I also enjoy playing devil's advocate from time to time, or maybe more often than not. So I totally agree with the point he was making, but I wanted to tell about one trap that is really easy to fall into. So sorry that I have no slides. I just wrote some thoughts for the last 15 minutes, and this is what I think. So it's really easy when you start to make research on any topic to find arguments of people that have different opinions that will fight each other on the internet. And I think that's the simplest part, but then comes the time that you have to make the choice. And in some cases, it's quite easy because you see some benchmarks, and if you trust them, then it's all right. But sometimes it's just it comes to personal preference, and then we're all screwed. So we probably won't ever have an ultimate argument that will finish the war between tabs and spaces and things like that. So the problem is that the less obvious it is, and the harder it is to check which option is better and to see how to measure that, the more people will feel the strong need to voice their opinions on the matter. So, and that's what the problem is, because it's even worse in some other topics like global warming or homeopathy or vaccinations, but it happens in programming too, that sometimes there are those matters where the scientific world spent years to do the hard work and make the research, and they came to some conclusions. And there are still some people that just ignore that, and they shout loudly things like Earth is flat, and so on. And the problem is that there is still a lot of people that don't know that too, but they don't know who to trust, who to believe. So they just see that one person tells one thing, second person says second thing, and they say, well, we cannot know because there is a scientist on this side, there is a scientist on this side. So basically, we just cannot know. And sometimes there is also another thing that happens, like some of the people will say that, well, so if we cannot know and we cannot tell which person is right, then maybe the middle is somewhere in the middle. So maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. So this is also not true, and it can be absurd, but if you think it's a good idea, then feel free to use Z key for indentation, because it's right in the middle between space and the tab key. So yeah, it can be stupid, and there's just a lot of stuff where you can know what is the truth, but you just need to do a proper research and to read stuff and just to find some ways to know which people don't actually know what they are talking about. And so my point is that it's healthy to question the common knowledge, but when facing the decision, always try to do the research. And for some things, it's easier than others. For programming, it's usually not easy, but it really helps if you first think about what is the goal you want to achieve, and maybe come up with some metrics and think about how you can measure which option would be better. And then it really gets a bit easier. And sometimes you will come to the conclusion that I have those metrics. I can say that both of those options are valid. The long files, large files, and classes work for me, and small classes work for me as well. So maybe sometimes it's better just to start doing your work, because you will spend more time on doing this research and making the decision than on developing the feature that your client or boss wanted. So I think that's it. So thank you. I would love to talk to you about it later. So thanks.
Hi guys, I'm Mansfield. I would like to talk to you about monitoring Ruby applications with Heka and Grafana. As a test case, stuff that I'm working on, it's a SOAP-based architecture, huge app, 30 plus applications, some Rails, mostly Sinatra, blah, 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 heavy duty, 700 requests per second, multiple databases, 200 gigabytes plus, Mozilla for the win. Heka is awesome. It can measure everything, and it's open source, so it's awesome. You can be friends with Heka because it works out of the box. There is a Docker container for it. It is fast. It accepts the statsd messaging format. It accepts UDP packages, so when you send stuff, you don't wait for the response. So it's almost invisible for the application. It squashes data, and it can store data into InfluxDB. So if you need a way to hook up to anything, to measure how often, how fast, how many errors, if you want to have nice charts and cross-app comparisons, you should use it. You can use aspect-oriented programming to wrap it up. You can send UDP packages. You can use Heka to collect data, InfluxDB to store it. Yeah, Grafana to have nice charts, and remember to use connection pool for the UDP to not kill garbage collector in Ruby. If you use Grafana, it will have a nice stylings. You'll have multiple dashboards, so you can see your stats from multiple perspectives. You can use InfluxDB query editor. It's almost like SQL. You can have annotations, multiple data sources. It has a JSON graph editor, so it's easy to use, like this, nothing special. In the end, you'll have something like that. The downsides, it is self-maintained, so someone needs to set it up. It is hard to debug if you use with UDP packages, obviously, because if they're somewhere else that they should be, you don't know where. It silently fails if you don't, if you have network issues. But if you have network issues, that this is kind of small issue to you comparing to other. It needs some configuration, although everything is open source and you can Google it. Won't auto-adapt to application changes, so you need to change it together with what you change in your apps. It is also useless for non-app level issues. So if your request doesn't hit your application, you will just see zeros. You won't see any requests, and that's all.